We got to be able to see the situations that we interpret as being a stain, the situations we interpret as being a failure. When we can meet them with our intention and with our observation and our spiritual power and our faith, we could turn that shit into a better situation than we had in the first place.
World famous Vic Mensa. I personally have been a fan for many, many, many years. Honestly, I've watched since 2014. It was pretty unbelievable to, at first, to hear Jay-Z call you one of the most important people of our generation. And it took me a couple years to realize why he said that. I was a little late to the party, and now I understand why. And I'm very much looking forward to learning more about you. The purpose, of this conversation is to bring light to failure. I think that the word failure has a tremendous amount of baggage around it, and it's highly misconstrued as being something different from success. And so much as far as, I would say that failure is a gift. And I know that you've experienced a lot of hardship. You've lost a lot of people, in your life. And I'd love to see how all of this really transpired and how you were able to, take yourself from a very difficult situation and make yourself into the man that you are today, that is truly an asset to humanity.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate you for having me, man. I think that the concept of viewing failure as a gift is absolutely necessary, integral to success. And I believe that in our current reality of a social media driven world, the facade of this fantasy success that exists on Instagram and exists on TikTok negates to most people the necessary failures that it takes to have any type of success. And the timing of you asking me to be on this podcast, to me, is very divine and integral, because I've been meditating on the gifts that I've been given by what can be viewed as failures. And also I've been meditating on the ability that I have, and we all have as human beings, to transmute what is considered a failure into success. One of my main mantras that I've been living by recently and been handing off to friends left and right is that my goodwill is a force field by which all things are transmuted into their greatest vibrational frequency. So failure is transmuted into success, hate is transmuted into love, anxiety is transmuted into excitement, loss is transmuted into gain, lack is transmuted into lots. So that's something I've been living with.
That's absolutely beautiful. Talk to me a little bit more, because we very much see the world the same way. Talk to me about, a failure, so to speak. And I use failure like in quotes, because both of us know, herein within failure is when you find success, or failure is the other side of the coin, right? And people try to bifurcate those things in a way that's just not true. And I agree with everything you said about just the lack of authenticity that we see within social media and all those other things, but talk to me about, what it took for you to have introspection into what you initially would have thought would have been a failure, that then transmuted, as you said, because I love that word, into a blessing or into something, right? So talk me through something like that, so so the listeners can understand that a little better.
So when I learned of the premise of your program, what came to mind is a subject that has largely impacted my life in the last three or so years. So in the year 2018, I did a freestyle in which I dissed the late Triple XX Tentacion, and I called him out for violence against women, and um, and I stood on it, and people were extremely upset with me. I'm receiving
I
death
remember.
threats left and right.
Oh my God.
I've been, so to speak, canceled in certain ways. And, more recently, because I spent a lot of time being resentful about it, being defensive of it, and, pushing back, fighting, getting involved in violence surrounding it. And more recently, I've I've learned some brilliant lessons that have completely transformed my worldview, the way I see myself within it. And it came to me from multiple avenues. One was a book that I love that's called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn.
Love the book. One of my favorites.
One of the absolute favorites. And so
It's
a
a
friend gave me
jewel.
this book, and it has completely transformed my mind in a lot of ways. And one thing that it said in the book that is a Bible scripture is that judge not lest ye be judged, condemn not lest ye be condemned. And when I started to contextualize that event within the framework of judge not lest ye be judged, and I also was in the mosque not too long ago. I've been exploring Islam, and the imam was telling us khutbah, that's like the sermon. And so he's
Yeah,
saying
of course.
the prophet Isa, which is the Muslims, what they call Jesus. And so the
Yep.
prophet Isa in the Quran says, he has a passage in which he says, do not pay attention to the flaws of others as if you are a Lord. And I started to contextualize and understand that my judgment of Triple X for what he did, right or wrong, was directly responsible for the judgment of me. And what I didn't understand prior to this to this experience was that the energy of judgment and condemnation, judgment is for another entity. You know what I'm
Got it.
saying? I'm not
Absolutely.
Allah. I'm not Allah in the least bit. I'm not God. I'm not Yahweh. I'm not Jesus. I'm not Isa. None of us are. And whether or not you believe in those entities, I like to equate all of those with universal consciousness. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I have best friends in every walk, religion, race, culture, and to me, I believe in the golden thread that unites all of them, not in focusing on the differences that would put them apart, if that makes sense. So we're very much in line with that belief system.
100%. And what I've started to understand and, been employing in each moment of my life is that, I've lived much of my life caught in a web of judgment of myself, judgment of people around me. I remember as a little kid, I always felt ostracized because I come from Ghanaian heritage and a white mother, and I'm from the south side of Chicago. So I felt like I didn't have a place to begin with.
But where you lived also geographically, you were kind of in a position, if I remember correctly, where kind of the rich people were on one side of the tracks and kind of you saw poverty on the other. So you were
Next door.
literally stuck in the middle of two generations physically. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly. Exactly. And I believe that that has largely contributed to, this spirit of judgment that I carried with me throughout my childhood into adulthood. Whether it's things as simple as being on the playground and making fun of another kid for their teeth. I've always had crooked teeth. I had braces, etc. And I'm starting to
Hey, Fab got his tooth fixed. You can get yours fixed too if you wanted to, right?
Sometimes I think about it. Sometimes I think about it. But So as music starts to happen, as the roller coaster of fame starts to happen, um, I've got judgments on both sides. I'm judging the people who I feel like are undeserving of having more of a metric of success than me, and I'm judging the people who I feel like don't have the metrics of success that I have. I'm not only judging them, that's in my sphere of work and of expression, but I'm also judging those on the other side of the political sphere. I'm judging police so hard. You know, I'm carrying this. I'm carrying such a burning um, such a burning pit of coal inside of me that when I see police drive by in Chicago or in the streets, I look at them and I think, I hope they die today. Fuck whoever's in that car. Fuck those police. You know what I mean? Fuck them. I hope they die today. They're terrible people. I can't see a humanity in them. You know what I'm saying? So I do the same. I was doing the same with Trump supporters. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm doing the same with Florida. I'm like, yo, I think Florida should just fucking break off and float into the ocean. You know what I'm saying? And this one experience with Triple X that has led to a lot of difficulty for me has honestly, it's taught me damn near more than anything in my life has, because I have learned that those thoughts, those intentions, those actions of judgment, whether or not I feel that I'm in a search of a righteous, I'm trying to do something right. You know, I'm fighting against
No question.
violence against women. You know, I think that it's an
Well,
epidemic
that
in hip
goes in the
hop.
foundation too, which you're also, super passionate about. I know, and I think that dovetails, into that. So clearly the intention and the heart value that you bring is profoundly authentic, without question. How does that translate into the work that the foundation is doing
Mm,
versus what Vic Mensa is doing, or are they
mm.
synonymous?
You know, they're often synonymous, but the way that the realizations I was just speaking about, I believe, impact my work in that way. With my nonprofit organization, it just in general, like um, social sphere, my work in the social sphere is that I've began to understand that fighting for something is not always synonymous with fighting against something.
Wow. Say that one
Fighting
more time. I need to soak that in. Say that one more time.
Fighting for something is not always synonymous with fighting against something. So many of my
Wow.
missions in
Wow.
life have been for the rights and the freedom of people, for justice on behalf of the people. Um, However, in doing so, I've often demonized and condemned and spent so much time judging that it could become hatred for those who I see to be responsible for um, any oppressions being
Do you
done
think
to the
that's the
people.
right approach? Just out of curiosity, like, do you find that rage, you know, elevates you and pushes you towards a constructive outcome, or do you find that that type of rage that you hold has a negative impact on your soul while you're effectuating positive change? Like, how does that affect you, at a spiritual level when you're fighting those battles and fighting those demons?
I believe that it's corrosive, the
Yeah.
moving in a spirit of rage and hatred is corrosive. In the Bible, in the scripture, it tells you love thy enemy, and something that I've come to understand and just started using in small ways in my life is, instead of when I have a disagreement or I think that someone is wholeheartedly wrong, if I think their actions are abhorrent, I instead of saying fuck that person, I'd be like, God bless them. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
It's a
I've
it's
learned.
ama- it, bro. it's amazing how powerful that is. So one of my favorite writers, Mark Twain, who I'm sure you like as well, he has a quote that has always really stuck with me that you reminded me of. He said that it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so.
Right. Word.
You know, and you know, right? And it comes to a point where so much of this learning that we talk about, we emphasize learning and adding knowledge, which obviously is profound, but it feels like there's a tremendous amount of unlearning that needs to happen, like an unraveling of these things, both internally and externally. How do you feel about that?
That's my
right
everyday.
now with and how's that, like, what does that mean for you today?
I'm gonna show
you
you
know,
something.
as Vic Mensa.
Let me see if I have this. Okay, so look, here's what I've been doing. I've been working on these meditations that Catherine Fraser, obviously who connected us, gave me by
Yeah.
a man named Dr.
God
Joe
bless you, Catherine,
Dispenza.
dear friend.
Yeah. So Joe Dispenza is speaking about a lot of the things that the game of life and how to play it is speaking on. That
Yeah, I read Becoming Supernatural the day it came out. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I do all of his chakra meditations.
So dope.
That's my guy. It's
so
my
dope.
guy.
So what I'm doing right
Next
now
level.
is
Next
I'm working
level.
on this change game meditation where I identify, you know, the emotions and the feelings that are not serving me. You know, what I've been working on is fear, and I believe that connects deeply to everything I've been talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All of that judgment is all coming from a place of personal fear. So what I'm doing right now is when I feel those familiar feelings and those negative voices happening in my mind, you know what I'm saying? I'll say change, experience the feeling that I've memorized that's within my body, and I got this clicker. So I'll go, if I feel like I'm not good enough or in this, I'm not going to do a good job on this podcast, I'll go change in my mind, and then I'll do, I'm infinitely powerful. I'm infinitely powerful.
And that's your move, and that's
powerful. 10 times. I'll say it 10 times, you know, whether it's that or it's my goodwill is a force field 10 times. You know what I'm saying? Like,
my goodwill is a force field, this man said.
Yo, I'm trying to tell you. So look, I gave this to one of my guys, the goodwill is a force field mantra. My guy is a good friend of mine who's serving a 15-year sentence for a shooting that happened in Chicago during a mental health episode. And so I've been working with him for a few years, trying to get him the right lawyers, because he really got, you know, fucked by the justice system, the injustice system.
Does this have to do with the Shelter song you did with Wyclef? Is this about Julius?
No, well, it does have to do, because it's not Julius, but it's
no,
a brother
I get,
named James.
But I'm saying it's the same cadence, it's the same ethos.
It's the exact same ethos, the same type of relationship.
Yeah, okay. Got you.
And so we've been having lawyer trouble, you know, as happens in these situations. Recently, a lawyer that Chance and I have collaborated to get for our friend who's locked up, we were feeling that he was telling us things that he wasn't doing, and, you know, we were feeling upset. The whole time I'm using these new processes to assume the best in him. You know what I mean? Just to assume the best and to avoid blowing up, becoming upset. So I gave this my goodwill as a force field thing to James, and prior to his conversation with the lawyer that we've been trying to set up for a long time, and it's just been, you know, not happening week after week, James decided to meditate on that because he wanted to come in super hot. You know what I mean? He wanted to come in really hot and be like, man, fuck you. Why is it that you saying this and it's going down that way?
Yeah, rightfully so. You can
he
see where
to
that
come
comes
in hot.
from.
This is his life.
Yeah.
This is his life. So, because the lawyer told us, and this is dope. So check this out. The lawyer told us that the last court date, he was going to be ready to go. That's what we interpreted. That's what we believed was going to happen. We got to the court date. All of our friends have logged in online because it's all on Zoom. And here the lawyer comes and he says about 5 words, and he says he's still going through paperwork. He's not ready. So all of the guys are in the group chat. They're like, man, James' lawyer is fucked up, this, that, and the third. James before his conversation last week with the lawyer, decided to say his goodwill is a force field. So he comes into the conversation, and not only does the lawyer apologize for any misunderstandings, what has happened, not only does that happen, he tells James that actually, since your last court date, the judge on your case, who has not been favorable to you, has been swapped out. Now you have a new judge. And
Come
I'm like, that's what
on.
I mean by my goodwill is a force field by
No, but
which a
that's that
failure.
manifestation. But you designed that and manifested it.
That's
No,
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying. You got to look at it that way. We got to be able to see the situations that we interpret as being a stain, the situations we interpret as being a failure. When we can meet them with our intention and with our observation and our spiritual power and our faith, we could turn that shit into a better situation than we had in the first place.
fucking absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's all you got is you. And I'm of the firm belief, like you are, that my external reality is a reflection of my internal reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What I'm experiencing out
100%.
there, and I got to put the onus back on me because all I got is
100%.
me. Right? And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in a humble way, in the sense of saying, if I'm not looking at myself, if something's going wrong, and in the exact way that you explained, who else am I going to look at?
And it starts with everything, I believe, starts with our faith. Everything that we want to create starts with our faith. And when I say that, I don't mean our faith in a denominational way, like our faith in a
I got
book.
you.
I mean
got you.
our belief. Like when you believe something wholeheartedly, you know what I mean? When you have a clear mental picture, a vision of when you can feel yourself in a scenario that doesn't exist yet, I mean, you've just done the work. You know what I mean? You've made it that much closer to happening. And that is how I know that I'm transforming the things in my life that others see and I've seen as failures into successes, because not only am I creating more astronomical heights of success for myself in the current moment and in the quantum future, I'm also stepping into it having learned what I gained from falling down. You know what I mean?
So
Who
let me ask you a
knows?
question. So is the failure the actual success?
Rising above the failure, not giving up from the failure, I believe is the success. You know what I'm
And
saying?
leaning into that failure
Leaning into
with
and learning from it.
Robert
Learning
Downey
from it.
Jr. Robert Downey Jr. said something very interesting, when he got out of jail. He called it hugging the cactus, and looking at his failures and look at all the, the pain and, that he had caused, whether family or whatever it was. But at one point he had to say, I had to hug the cactus, and really embrace what that is and look deep into it. And at this point in my life, I think people don't have the introspection into that quote unquote failure for one simple reason. It fucking hurts.
Right.
It hurts. And not many, unfortunately are willing to be, comfortably uncomfortable, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? And it seems like the way you're explaining this is you've come to a place in your life that you can do that with an element of grace and faith that few are able to do. And how did that happen, Vic? Like, how did this evolution, like, what was the impetus, like, that all of a sudden said, okay, you look in the mirror, Vic Mensa, I'm doing this, I'm a superstar, I got my stuff going. Like, was there a trigger or a defining moment where you had to say, okay, something ain't working exactly the way I want it to be, and I need to go on this spiritual quest? Or was that always in you innately as a child? Like, what happened there that brought you on that quest?
I've been on it for so long, and I've been looking for the language, for the community, for the tools to transform myself for so long. But I only recently really started to understand how that started internally. I've been to 12-step programs. I've been on every antidepressant known to man. I've been in therapy, psychiatric treatments since I was 15. I've done
Wow.
more recently, like transcranial magnetic stimulation, ketamine therapy, ayahuasca, uh, 5-MeO, DMT,
And what did you
meditation.
find? What did you find in that? Was there any truth that that
It's truth in
that came?
all. It's truth in all that shit. But what I just, have realized quite recently is that there's nothing externally that I can do that will be as impactful and can address what I've been dealing with my whole life, more than or as much as transforming the way I think.
God bless you. I
That's
mean,
it.
that's no truer words have been said. Um, you know, really in your life, and it's something that I'm always interested in talking to deep people like yourself, and you and I both share a love of transcendental meditation.
Mm,
We both share a love of the esoterics, and I think on our face, on the surface, if they look us up, they see me as a real estate guy, they see you maybe as a rapper, people
mm,
that don't know us, but in
mhm,
reality, you know, I think we're a lot different than that. As I think this conversation is dictating. Um, what was going on? Just because I'm a hip hop head and Catherine knows that, and um, talk to me about Fear and Doubt,
mm,
because that song to
mm,
me was, I didn't know who Vic Mensa was. Okay, like and I mean that not in the sense of I hadn't heard of Vic Mensa, but it wasn't until that track that I felt a level of vulnerability mixed with bars that very few have been able to do in a profound way. One is Nas, one is Cole, right? One is,
mm.
Kendrick probably. Um, but talk to me about that song, because it was so vulnerable, and the way that you talked about your mom and the way you talked about becoming this man that your mother envisioned. What did that song mean to you? Because I know what it meant to me,
Mm,
because I had a visceral experience, and there's other songs that I've heard on other albums where the bars or the lyrics might be harder, or whatever, but
mm.
that one hit me in a visceral way
Yeah,
more so. What were you thinking when
that
you
one
wrote that
makes
song?
that one makes so much sense in the context of the gift of failure, um, because that song is born of one of the most painful experiences that I it came across or encountered in my musical trajectory, and that was the dissolution of a band that I was in called Kids These Days, that I had, poured my heart and soul into, for the first 5 years of making music. I had foregone so many solo opportunities, to work with No ID and Atlantic Records and Warner Records. I had told everybody, no, I'm loyal to the band. This is what it is. If you want to sign me, you got to sign the group. And the group was, born of myself and my best friend. His name is Nico Segal. He's a brilliant trumpeter, jazz musician. He also plays in Chance's band, these days, producer as well. And so, in many ways, it was like a marriage. It was like a first love. You could see it like a first love. From about age 15 to age 20, and countless experiences, hours, heart and soul poured into the music. And, you know, when it broke up and I felt basically ostracized, I felt pushed out because the next day they formed a new band with all the same members, but just not me, you know? So I felt very hurt.
Fuck.
And so that, I don't know if you would call it a failure, but like, well, yeah, the failure of that union, the failure
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah, I
you
feel
would
you.
call
No,
that
yeah,
a
I feel
failure.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The failure of that union, hurt me so much. And, that's what inspired me to make the song Fear and Doubt. And it's full of, you know, just rumination on, the ways that I've been impacted by situations like that, but also comes around to a place near the end of the verse where you hear me get into it's never been meant no when the grit
You
comes
feel
out
the
of my
heart come
voice.
out that
Yeah, because it was like I was in the midst of this and I'm thinking about,
no,
you
you
know,
felt the fire. You
I'm
felt the
thinking about
heat there.
in the beginning part of the verse, I'm thinking, you know, given the current circumstances, I stand alone, no one to hold me but me. I mean, it's hard not to be stressed, stretching myself to the bone. Can't feel my chest. I've been heaving from all the smoke I've been breathing in just to not be depressed. And I'm thinking about, you know, how I feel from the band breaking up. And I'm thinking about, you know, killing myself, which is shit I don't rap about no more because I understand the power of my words. But that's where my head was at. And then you hear in
It's
that
real.
voice that, you know, through that pain, I broke through. You know what I mean? And you don't get that expression, you know, without that repression or that oppression. You know what I'm saying? By circumstance, that expression that breaks through, which I feel is the success that we speak of. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't happen without the struggle and strain that it took to get there.
I'm with you. And so in that trajectory, um, how did that alter all of a sudden fast forwarding to, you know, to signing to the Rock, to going to Hove, to going like so meaning like now looking back, you know, and connecting those dots and putting them all together of what was a failure and now where all these things have transmuted, iterated into now how do you look at that situation?
I look at that situation as having taught me countless, boundless lessons. Um, that situation taught me so much about music to begin with. You know, it was a band full of jazz musicians. So I learned about Coltrane and Miles and Bird
So it
and
actually
Keith
evolved your
Jarrett,
music as
and
well.
Sly and the Family Stone, and you know, the Pixies and Rage Against the Machine. There's so many things that have significantly impacted me that I got from that experience. You know what I'm saying? Um, Not to mention like just a deep appreciation and understanding of the way to wield musicality in my own solo music. Because prior to that, Nico was my best friend, so I would have some trumpet on a record. But you know, had I just gone on a trajectory where I was just rapping over beats, I don't know if I would have ever developed such an eclectic, um, an eclectic musical sound in my music, which I feel like is a strong suit of what I do. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
no question. And by the way, and you're also producing, you're mixing. I mean, like I mean,
I learned so much about
you're in it.
what I do from that. Yeah, that taught me, and it taught me about collaboration with people. You know what I'm saying? It taught me about um, compromise. You know what I'm saying? Being in a
Huh.
band will teach you about compromise in ways that you probably know because you said you play music, created it with other people, will teach you about compromise in ways that nothing else will. You know what I'm saying? And those are just like endlessly valuable lessons that I learned from this situation.
So so it's fair to
They're
say
gifts.
they're gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took the words
Even
out of
this
my
song,
mouth.
Fear and Doubt, is a gift. That's a gift that comes directly
Well,
from
I'll
this
tell you one
failure.
thing. It was a gift for me. because, what was that, 2013,
Yeah,
14?
that's 13 or 14.
Yeah, 13 or 14. And I remember hearing it, and it's still, in my, my Spotify, my like stuff. And when I'm in my feelings and I'm at the kind of that place where we all get to, and, at this point in my life, vulnerability is power. And I've come to learn that, the hard way, which most things worth doing are kind of hard. But, when I listen to that record, it makes me rethink my missteps or rethink my iterations. And you know I feel blessed that you went through that to where I could experience it and I could feel it on that deep visceral level that I do. And I was gonna ask you, I don't know how often people talk to you about that particular record or not, but for me that one was you know that's a sleeper classic, my
That's
dude.
one of my favorites, man. And honestly, like most of my favorite things that I've ever written come from experiences like that. They come from experiences of pain. I feel like pain is the seed that uh, blossoms into beauty. You know what I'm saying? Um, and even albums, I mean, the most tortured artists have often been those that have given us the fuel to live through tragedy,
No,
from
well,
Tupac to Cobain.
oppression. I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you look at the deepest areas of oppression historically, has led to the greatest art.
Hmm.
I mean, truly. I mean, in any culture, go back 10,000 years, it's led to that. So, at this point in your life, you're at the very beginning of your career, very young man, extremely accomplished. you know, what's next for Vic Mensa? Like, what's the passion now, and um, what's the next mistake to make, so to speak? And I mean that in a loving way, like meaning like
Yeah.
what's the next big one you're going to go to? What's the swing to make the mistake, to find the gift, to find the blessing? Like
Mm.
what's on your agenda right now to go after? Um, you know, in the profound way that I know you do everything you do with passion and with authenticity. But what's next?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is today, you know, and learning to take each today to move through it with grace, grace for myself, grace for every fellow man and woman. Um, Music is of paramount importance to me. I'm in the studio
Of
right
course.
now working on my next project. And so, that's what I'm focused on. But in many ways, I'm just learning how to integrate these understandings that have recently started to download into my psyche, into the music that I make, into the films that I'm working on, into the book that I'm writing, and making all of these things come together and represent me truly. I've been really inspired by another failure that, people can see, failure of the world to maintain Virgil Abloh for us. That's been major,
Rest in peace, man.
but it's
My
been so
God.
inspiring for me because, um, Virgil has shown us that, and shown me, that I can exist in perfect self-expression in, in any way that I choose. You know what I mean? I don't have to be limited to a lane. Virgil was expressing himself in music, fashion, art, e- exhibition at the MCA, making a table or a chair or a blimp or a mix, and so one thing I'll say about him is that he was doing it with grace the whole time, man. Like he wasn't stressed.
He
Or if
sure
he
made it
was, he
look
didn't seem
effortless.
it. He didn't seem very
He made it look effortless. My yoga teacher used to say it takes a whole lot of effort to become effortless, but
Mm.
like when he moved, it was like he floated, right?
Yeah, I
Like
got
it was almost like, is that right? Like it just kind of
oh,
felt like
100%.
it just felt like he was
100%.
floating. I never got to know him in person, but watching from the sidelines, like he had that, he had
You
that
know,
special thing.
there was one there was one story at the funeral yesterday that somebody told. I don't remember who it was. But they were talking about Virgil on maybe they were on the Watch the Throne tour. And I think this was something that we can all learn from. I know I can. I've been working on it today. So Virgil is making a graphic that's either for an album cover or tour merch or something. Um, he's on Photoshop for about an hour. He's got a gallery of about 25 people standing directly behind him. I'm assuming these people include Kanye West, Don C, Malik Youssef, might be Jay-Z, might be Lenny, you know what I mean? A
Yeah.
crazy gallery
Yeah.
of 25. And everybody's like, try this, try that, try this, try that. Virgil's sitting there on Photoshop. And they said never at one point in time did he get frustrated, upset, and be like, yo, I know what I'm doing.
Wow.
Like, let me just, you know what I mean? Let me, you know what I'm saying? Because he cared about all these people's input and he was graceful. So that's been
Wow.
on my spirit because, when things
Wow.
start to seem troubling or, or frustrating, it's easy for us to respond in frustration. But Virgil knew that his energy could transmute frustration into inspiration. You know what I'm saying? So he was just moving. He was just moving in spirit. And there's one other story that's been on my mind as we've been speaking that I wanted to
Please
I,
share.
I wanted to share. So I was outside of the mosque the other day, and I'm talking to a couple brothers on the corner. Directly adjacent to us is a group of Nigerian men speaking boisterously and loudly as they do if you know Nigerians. And so one of the guys that was next to me, he was like, man, it's a lot of them. Them Nigerian brothers be deep, And the other guy was like, yeah, but them brothers be racist though. And then the
Huh?
first, it's true. There's a lot of misunderstandings between Black Americans and Black Africans.
Sure. Okay.
Just a lot of stereotypes
Like
that they hold.
intra
Yeah,
racism.
that they hold about each other. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the first brother he responded in response to yeah, but them brothers be racist though. He was like, man, that's between them and Allah. And I thought that was so fly because I was like, how often do I
Whoa,
sit
my
around and
God.
how often do I sit around and think about like all those people that stormed the Capitol and be like, look at these racist idiots, like, fuck these people, you know what I mean? When it's like the truth is, man, that's between them and a higher power. Like
And
that's between
God.
them and God, them and the universe. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share that because I feel like we could all use that. You know what I'm saying?
We all could, man. And I'll ask you a question, obviously out of respect for your time. And this has been for me, this has been a very healing conversation. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to go back and watching this again and absorb uh a lot more of the energy that you've brought, which is just so clean and pure and beautiful. But um if there was one thing that you wish everybody knew, what would that be?
The one thing that I wish everyone knew is that every thought, every action, every intention that you hold, even those unspoken, and undoubtedly every word directly impacts your reality. It comes right back to you. And your word has the power to build and it has the power to destroy. By our tongue, we are liberated and we are condemned. And that's the one lesson that I feel the more of us who grasp that and act in accordance with it, the better world we'll live in.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I agree with you 100%. Vic, this has been an honor and a pleasure. And you've taught me a lot today, my friend.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for
This
having me.
is so beautiful. And you let me know what you're working on. We have our family foundation, the Rastigar Family Foundation, that shares a lot of the core values that you all have and the things that you all are doing. You know, if you'd be gracious enough to allow us support you and some of the causes that you have, we'd love to be a part of it. We'd love to help be an advocate for you, your cause, your platform, because you know you're a ray of light, man, and the world needs more of you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate being with you, and look forward to us getting out to Fairfield, Iowa, and doing some meditations, and you know, tracking our heart rate variabilities and going deep, and you know, mining for those jewels and sharing these conversations, and continue to not only learn but unlearn that old programming that we all need to delete too.
Word. I appreciate you, Ari. This is a beautiful mission that you're on here, and thank you for including me.
It's the pleasure is all mine. You have a beautiful day, man. God bless you. All
All right, you
love,
too, God.
and we'll be in touch, man. I'll
All
talk
right,
to you in a
peace,
bit.
bro.
You got it, big dog.